Okay. Call the meeting to order. This meeting is being conducted telephonically pursuant to Governor's Order N2920. Because this is a telephonic meeting, all votes will be taken by roll call. City Clerk, please call the roll.
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Doris.
Here.
Molly.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Vice Mayor Chris.
Present.
Mayor Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation tonight is Pastor Matt Dumas from Central Christian Church. Is Pastor Dumas on the phone?
He is.
Okay, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, thank you, sir. Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. Father, we thank you that you are a good God, and even in the midst of trying circumstances that we can rely on you. I thank you that even, again, when we see things like this that cause us to be fearful, or, Father, that sometimes cause us to wonder at your goodness, that, Lord, we can still see evidence of how you are working through your people to make a difference and to impact lives. And, Lord, I pray that you would bring an end to the pandemic quickly. Lord, I pray for wisdom for our community leaders, Lord, for the folks that are on this phone call as they're making decisions that impact the lives of people here. Lord, I pray that they would have just the wisdom of Solomon as they do that, as they'd be sensitive to the needs of the folks that both are impacted by the virus and by businesses and just the emotional and mental needs of folks who are in lockdown. I pray for our state leaders and for our federal government, Lord, that through this whole process, that, Father, we would see folks working together, that we would see a country, a state, a city that's united with a desire, Father, just to see ultimately your glory brought here through this. And, Father, we just thank you for, once again, the way that you love us, the way you demonstrated that through your son, Jesus. And, Lord, may we never forget that. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. In light of the circumstances, we'll forego the Pledge of Allegiance because I don't know how we do that without a flag and without standing up, and so we'll just forego it. So we'll hear the election presentation from Andrea Alexander, our clerk. City Clerk.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, if you could, when you're not speaking, mute it so that we won't pick up any background noise. Thank you. So I'm before you this evening to present the election results from our general all-mail ballot municipal election held on April 14th, 2020. For the election of mayor, 2 city council members, and a vote on a measure to increase the city's transient occupancy tax. The County of Los Angeles rendered full services to the city in connection with the April 14th election. Thus, the ballots were counted and results were provided by the LA County Registrar Recorder. The total amount of registered voters for the city of Lancaster was 85,465. The total number of vote-by-mail ballots packets that were issued, which includes the voters who requested a second ballot because they either lost or never received one when they were first issued, was 88,330. The total of vote-by-mail ballots cast was 13,158. The results are as follows. R.X. Paris was reelected as mayor for a term of 4 years. Ken Mann was reelected as a member of the city council for a term of 4 years. Darrell Doris was elected as a member of the city council for 4 years. Measure B totaled 50.76%, with the majority voting against the Measure B. It is important to note that in comparison to the 2016 election, similar to this one, which was held with in-person and vote-by-mail ballots, there was an increase in voter participation this year. In 2016, we had 11.2 voter turnout, and this year we had 15.4% voter turnout. So, in conclusion, I'd like to thank the city clerk staff, both Katie and Anna. They were very helpful. The assistant city attorney and the city attorney, and the city managers for their help and cooperation during this time to help make this election successful. If you all have any questions, I can take them at this time.
I do have one question. You said for a period of 4 years. Is that 4 years or is it like 3 years, 11 months?
Yeah, 3 years, 11 months.
Okay.
It is 3 years, 11 months.
Knows.
Yeah.
Daryl would want that extra month later.
So we now need a motion. Mayor Paris, you're muted.
Oh, I guess some people prefer that. Why did we lose the month?
That's due to the change in the election timing from the change from a municipal election to run by the county in the future. That's why.
And that's by state law, is that right?
Yes, the consolidation of the elections was by operation of state law.
Okay, so I guess we'll go back to 11% turnout instead of 15%. It's crazy.
I hope
right.
not.
Okay. So of everybody who ran, who got reelected, who got the most votes?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm muting my mic.
Never.
No on Measure.
What?
No on Measure B.
Oh.
Ooh. Could have done better with that. Okay. So do I have a motion?
So moved to accept the results of the 2020 election results for City Council and Measure B.
And adopt resolution 20-12?
That's exactly what I said.
Second that.
Okay. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
City Council Member Doris,
Yes. Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chris,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes. It's unanimous. Okay. City Clerk, were there any public comments?
No, not for this item.
Okay, good. Thank you. City Manager, anything to be removed? Oh, we got to do the oath of office, don't we? Yeah.
Sure.
So how are we going to do that? You're going to do mine, and then Daryl, you want your wife to do yours, and Ken, what do you got planned?
I guess Andrea is going to do it, or Allison.
Okay,
Or you
so
could do it. Rex, you could do it. You go first and you do it.
what?
I said, you go first and then you do it.
I go first and then I do it. I would be honored to do that, Ken, but I don't have the oath here.
Okay.
I have to rely on Andrea to do that. Okay, let's do it, Andrea.
All right, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I state my name. Oh, I, R.X.
I
Do
can-
solemnly swear.
You want Rex to go first?
Yeah, I'm doing them individually.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll start off. So I state your name.
I, R.X. Paris,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the state of and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duty
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter. Good.
That's it.
So am I the
You ready?
mayor?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
official.
Mayor.
So that part about all enemies, foreign and domestic, that would include viruses, wouldn't it?
And that is an enemy.
Huh?
I think it qualifies as an enemy.
Okay. Why don't you swear in Mr. Mann?
Ready, Ken?
I'm ready.
All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
I, Ken Mann,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties I'm about to enter.
the duties which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So, Daryl, are you ready to take it away?
I'm ready.
Okay, and say I
I, Gerald Doris,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation
that I take this obligation
freely
freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. I'm so glad I had this on paper.
So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to say elected.
Congratulations to the three of you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, you all. Ken was a great
Thank
running
you.
mate.
Appreciate that.
So, normally we have cake and all, but nobody delivered it.
Marvin was responsible for the cake.
I was,
Yeah.
but Larry ate it.
Okay, let's go. All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
For a second.
I second that.
City Clerk?
City Council Member Doris,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chris,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes, passes unanimously. Are there any items to be removed from the consent calendar? Are there
I'll
any,
move to accept the consent calendar as currently comprised.
there's a second?
I second that.
City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Do we have any comments on the consent calendar before we move on to the roll?
No, I do not have any comments for the consent calendar.
Thank you.
City Council Member Norris,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chris,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes, passes unanimously. Okay, CR1. Any emailed comments regarding CR1?
No, I did not receive any email comments for CR1.
Okay, so are we turning this over to Larry now?
I think Allison's going to give us a report.
I see, okay, good. Oh, that's right, that's, all right. I'm a little slow. Go ahead.
So my understanding is there was some question about the roles and allocation of responsibility regarding the public health officer for the city of Lancaster, and that is presently designated as the county public health officer, as is the case for nearly every city in Los Angeles County. The public health officer has wide-ranging roles and responsibilities that have everything to do from food inspection to ensuring safety in pandemics and such as this one. And they are wide-ranging. I actually have a 54-page document of a single-space list of state codes that for which the public health officer is responsible. And so my understanding is there was some question about whether this was something we wanted to take on in-house, and it would be a wide-ranging responsibility with a need for significant staff. I'm happy to answer any particularized questions if you have them.
Is there any way we could take on parts of it and do it as a hybrid?
That is not how the statute is set up.
So Mayor Paris,
Sounds to me like you're,
Mayor Paris, two cities are independent of LA County, Pasadena and Long Beach, and they've been operating over 20 years that I'm aware of. Maybe it would be of value for us to do a little bit of investigation, and then we can make determination from there.
Did anyone look where the funding came from to support this? And if we did do it, where the funding would come from? Jason? Okay.
Jason is not.
Allison,
I do know that information. I don't know if he does.
Okay, can we, before we make any decisions or anything, can we look to see what kind of funding is available? What kind of costs do we pay the county, if any, and where that money is derived from?
Yes.
So again, my recommendation would be to have somebody do a little bit of exploratory with the city of Pasadena and the city of Long Beach, because I think that they would be able to give us numbers and possibly share with us the methodology that they used.
We will get into that.
let me tell you my concern. I mean, I think that the public health has done a wonderful job inspecting restaurants and, you know, doing that type of work. But let's be, I mean, I don't see any benefit of why we should tiptoe around this. Every time we have a disaster, they don't seem to do that good of a job. In fact, they fail. We saw it with Aliso Canyon when Southern California Gas blew out that well and poisoned 30,000 people. And by the time public health had figured out these people were actually being poisoned and you know, it was over and too late to help them. And that's a fact. That's not speculation. That's a fact that even they will agree with. And now we have this, and they're attempting to treat everybody the same and without very little explanation and very little. And that's why we have Dr. Stocks here, is because we can't get information from them, because quite frankly, I don't think they know the answers. But if we had not acted when we had acted, and if our two deputy mayors had not told us to act, we would have lost at least 2 to 4% of the extra 100 people that got infected in the neighboring city that failed to act when we did. Okay, so what does that mean? That 2 to 4% of those people died. You know, I mean, the consequences of this are extreme, and nobody's explained to us how this is going to end. I mean, what they tell us is that we're trying to keep the curve down and make it so there's enough ventilators for people, but there's nothing for us to suspect that this thing isn't going to keep taking people down. Am I right, Larry?
Right. Can you hear me okay, Mayor? Yeah. Look, we can look back at the 1918 pandemic. It lasted 3 years until everyone was either immune or they were dead. And that's how we got through it. With this, we're hoping it's the former rather than the latter. But we don't know when there's going to be a vaccine. There's estimates that the vaccine could be around as early as December. That's the most optimistic I've heard. And there is a possibility it could be out 18 months, and it's a possibility it could be never. And we do have diseases which we don't have vaccines for, viral diseases. So we have to come up with a strategy that makes sense. I wrote something up that
before you go into that, I want everybody to clear why we've asked you to do that.
Sure.
We have and you know, I understand they never expected this to happen, but it did happen.
Yeah.
And we cannot keep everybody out of work, and we cannot keep our churches closed. I mean, people need churches. We can't keep going down this path for 3 years. And so they have this rollout phase. It'll be phase 1 and phase 2. But I don't understand how there can be phases at all if it's going to be around for 3 years. And what they're not working on is, look, I mean, if they had just told businesses, gave them 1 week's notice, the disruption to their businesses would have been so much less. The ability of businesses to come back would have been so much greater. But they didn't. You know, they keep reacting and almost in a panic. What we need to know is what is the safest way for this particular business to reopen. And then as soon as that business is able to meet those requirements, and as soon as we're able to inspect to make sure they did, let's get people back to work. Because it doesn't seem to matter if we're stuck into this until everybody dies or gets the disease. So let's figure out a way to minimize that over the 3-year period. What you know, there's a lot of businesses right now that could be open, and we know that. And so what do we do? Do we continue? Well, actually, we haven't done that. But do we want to be one of those cities that just pass the buck to the state and to the county and say, you tell us what to do, we trust you? I don't trust them. You don't trust them. Nobody trusts them. Why do we engage in that fantasy? And Allison, you better start getting ready to sue the state, because we are not going to leave those churches closed for a year. We're just not going to. But at the same time, I want very specific plans that this is how people sit. This is what they have to wear. This is where the hand sanitizers are. You know, some of the churches have spent a fortune already buying those things, those electrostatic sprayers, so that after each service, they'll spray down the church. But what good is any of that if we have this government that acts like, oh, that's not important? Well, it is important. So, Allison?
Yep.
Let's get ready to go to war. But Larry,
okay.
Let's get ready to have a very sensible, the safest possible way for us to get through the next 3 years. And you know, I want everybody clear about this. I live in terror, in terror. My wife has a medical condition. If she gets this disease, I am a widower. I don't know how to live without her. You know, nobody is more frightened of this than I am. But I also recognize people have to go back to their life. And if they have to go back to their life wearing something over their face, then that's what they have to do. But we need to provide that guidance. We need to make very clear rules, and we need to enforce it. And when people fail to follow those rules, we close them. There's got to be a penalty for it. So, Larry, tell us how to do that.
Well, so I wrote up concepts that I think is a suggestion for a pathway forward, and I'm calling it the middle path. One way we see it as being completely shut down. Another is completely opened, as we might see some states move to this month. And I think in the middle, there is a sensible way to go forward where we get the right balance between what's going on with COVID. There's at least two other major things going on. One is all the other diseases that people are neglecting because they're so focused on COVID. People are too afraid to come to seek care at the hospitals, and they're having heart attacks and strokes at home, and they're rupturing their appendix at home. So that's no good. And the third thing is the cratering of the economy. And there's a cost of poverty and financial insecurity, which could far outweigh the disease itself for everybody, because the number of people that want are living paycheck to paycheck is very large. Businesses that cannot sustain a long period of time without operating is serious, and that's people's livelihood and that's employment. And so we need to figure out how we thread the needle here. And the analogy is, if anybody is a sailor in the audience here, is that when you sail, you have to watch the wind, and you have to trim your sails. You have to know the direction you're going in, and you have to keep measuring what's going on and making adjustments. And that's what we need to be doing. So I'm going to read through a bit of these concepts. I'm happy to stop anywhere along the way. But
let me ask you a question real quick.
Yes.
Can you make those your notes available to us so we can look at them, or should we be taking notes ourselves?
You don't have to take notes. Jason has a copy of this. I believe the mayor does as well. Jason, can you make that available to all the councilmen and deputy mayors? Oh, can't hear you. We will get you a copy.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No notes necessary. So during emergencies, people need a cogent strategic plan. The plan needs to be timely, logical, and balance all risks to do the most good for the most people while protecting the most vulnerable. And it must be evidence-based, but also flexible to adapt to new scientific evidence as it emerges. And the plan must be one that we can operationalize with available resources. The lack of a plan will lead to uncoordinated action by individuals, likely resulting in worse outcomes and a need for more resources. So that's the preamble. Although this is primarily a public health emergency, it has caused a secondary economic emergency. Balancing public health and economic needs requires coordinated political leadership and wise decision-making from our elected officials. I'm going to go through the bullet points here. The first one is goals. The first major goal is to minimize excess death and disability while allowing people to go back to work. Second is immunity against the virus for as many people as possible, reaching herd immunity. Herd immunity is a term that means if enough of us have protection from our immune system against this virus, whether we got it through infection or through vaccination, future introduction of that same virus will not cause an epidemic in the community, and that's what we have with things like measles and chickenpox by and large. Thirdly, stay-at-home guidance protection for the highest risk population until a vaccine is available. And just as a comment, during a pandemic emergency, typical ordering of priorities is inverted. So during a pandemic like this, we have to think about the good of the community greater than the family, which is greater than the individual, which is really the inverse of how we normally do things. But all three entities are important. We need to balance the strategy, the strategic plan, by taking all risk approach. Understand that the damage caused by COVID-19 includes more than just the direct effects of the virus on human health. our efforts to control the virus includes economic and societal damage, human suffering, and additional morbidity and mortality from other causes. So we have morbidity and mortality from the virus, morbidity and mortality from all other injuries that are being neglected due to healthcare avoidance behavior, and the social determinants of health, which are things like financial insecurity and poverty, food scarcity, social emotional isolation, mental health and substance abuse, domestic violence, and risky driving behaviors, to name a few. So what are the conditions? The governor talked about 6 conditions to open. I really think there's only one major condition we need satisfied, which is that we have a disease surveillance by public health in place to measure the number of cases, the number of hospital and ICU admissions, the number of deaths, and the number of complications. And that surveillance program is already in place. So those conditions have been met. But it doesn't mean that we haven't done everything we need to do. So public health has certain responsibilities, and that is to set up, we need to have accessible testing available. We need to have probably more testing than we have available now. You should be able to get a test and get a repeat test whenever you need it to know, so you can help satisfy your knowledge about whether you're infected or not, or somebody you care about is. We need to identify people that are virus positive so we can isolate them to reduce the risk to higher risk populations. And we need to have contact tracing. So that's by public health as well. And the reason we need to do that is to quarantine those close contacts to reduce the risk, again, to higher risk populations. We need to have transparency of the data. We need to have the ability to reinstitute stay-at-home guidance if we start seeing creeping up of hospital and ICU admissions. So that, to me, is a key metric. We're not going to, the number of cases is not as crucial as the number of people who have to be hospitalized or be hospitalized in the ICU, as well as complications and deaths. If you respond to case numbers aren't necessarily dangerous if they happen in young, healthy people. Because those people, if they get sick, they may get antibodies, they're going to be fine. But it's the people that are higher risk that are getting sick and end up in the hospital that we have to worry about. So that should be the proper metric. And I'm not sure that the governor has that on his list, because a lot of people are just looking at case counts. Public education, we want to tell people if you're having an emergency, go to the emergency room, don't have your emergency at home. And the last of these public health actions is to create an online risk tool. So everyone should know their own risk level. You need to know if you're in the higher risk level, moderate, lower, or low, because that'll help dictate your own behavior and the people in your household. It'll tell you, are you okay to go back to work, or do you need to stay at home primarily to protect yourself? We need to maintain, once we open up, we need to maintain these public health habits that we've all learned right now. Hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, face masks, social distancing, not touching your face, and staying away from sick people. These are the things that the mayor and Dr. Trong and Jason and I spoke with the first time we met. And they're still tried and true and need to continue on until we have this thing whipped. We need to risk stratify people. The higher group are going to be people 65 older, or age 50 to 64 if they have medical conditions, which I'll list. Moderate risk group would be 50 to 64 or 18 to 49 with medical conditions. Lower risk are 18 to 49 healthy people, and very low risk are age 18 and below. So what are these risk factors? If you're immune compromised because you're on medication or because of a condition that you have, if you have organ impairment to the lungs, kidneys, and livers that are more than very, very mild, if you have coronary artery disease or cerebral vascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, or pregnancy, these are the things that raise people's risk of death if they catch COVID. And so we don't want these people to get COVID. The next thing is about how we release people. It's not just open everything up suddenly. It's a sequential release of non-high risk populations. So slowly and separately to release groups from stay-at-home restrictions, beginning with low-risk groups, then lower, and finally moderate, with adequate time between group releases to detect potential increases in morbidity and mortality. So that's kind of important because we need to give it takes, there's a certain incubation time and time until people get really sick. So we have to probably give it at least 3 weeks between group releases, 3 or 4 weeks, to see if there's a measurable change, because we don't want to get in trouble by doing this. We want to keep everyone safe. At the end, only the high-risk population would maintain the stay-at-home guidance. Most businesses can reopen with public health restrictions, analogous to how supermarkets are running right now. So when you go to your supermarket now, people are wearing masks, they're spread out, they're open for business, but in a modified way to keep everyone safe. Immunity. So, of course, we all want an effective vaccine that'll permit everyone, including the high risk, to return to normal activities. And scientists are working on that actively. Between now and then, some people might acquire natural immunity. The World Health Organization just came out with something over the weekend saying they weren't sure about the antibody tests, and they're not sure that what is the nature of the immunity that people get once they get this disease. They don't know how strong it is, how long it lasts, how effective it is. And the absence of evidence doesn't mean the evidence of absence. There probably is some immunity. We just have, it's so new, we haven't had time to really do good enough studies to know what kind of immunity we get. But the person who's doing a natural experiment right now, the entity is Sweden. Sweden is doing something very different than everyone else. They're allowing everyone under the age of 70 pretty much do their own thing, short of having mass gatherings. So we're going to know very soon how Sweden's experiment, so to speak, is going to work out. And we'll know a lot more whether or not people actually have natural immunity or not, and at what cost in terms of deaths. So we'll see. Lastly, we need to protect higher risk people, and people need to take personal responsibility. Close contacts of higher risk and non-higher risk people, close contact of higher risk and non-higher risk people confers a responsibility to protect the vulnerable people by those who are not staying at home. Habits should protect the vulnerable. Secondly, personal risk tolerance should not violate the need to protect the vulnerable. And lastly, personal responsibility dictates that higher risk people take precautions to protect themselves. So I think this is crucial. If you know what your risk group is, and you take personal responsibility to protect yourself, and your close contacts within your family do the same, we can do a lot. We can open up a lot of businesses, and we can do a lot of stuff. We don't have to sit around doing nothing and waiting forever for a vaccine. But if we don't have that personal responsibility, we could see a lot more infections resulting of high risk people and more bad complications. So I'll pause now, and I'm happy to answer questions. That was a lot of stuff, but I fit it onto one page because the font was small enough.
I have a couple questions. Okay, Rex?
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple questions. Let's say we had our own health department, and would you recommend like opening up a golf course?
I don't see anything wrong with a golf course. People on golf courses are pretty spread out in general. Again, if people are golfing together, then they may need to wear masks together. But in general, I can't see a problem with golfing.
I liked what you emphasized, which was the personal responsibility. And that's the key to all of this, is what you're talking about, is personal responsibility. And how the supermarkets are changing the way that we react and what we do. So with the supermarkets changing the way that they do it, could we reopen, or would it be your suggestion to reopen some restaurants?
I believe we could open restaurants. I can't see why not. I think restaurants are operating now doing takeout. I think having tables that are spread out enough that people are not right on top of each other would make sense. And I think even having these, if you own a restaurant, for instance, having it open for service inside, even partway, actually, Raj can tell us whether or not that's important, would help that business to survive. And from a public health standpoint, I can't see why that's any different than going to a supermarket and having people spread out. So if you do have a family eating at a table together, okay, that family, they're already together at home in some fashion. So people could wear masks. We certainly could keep the tables spread apart and social distancing in that way. So I do think there's a lot of
Larry, how do we wear a mask and eat?
Well, good question. You got to take it off to eat. You got to take it off to chew. You cannot eat and chew. So I agree with you. I think I think this is for us to think about the exact operation. I do think it's doable. I think I had a unfortunate family gathering. I had a death in my family during this whole thing, and we had 10 people together, and we were in a room and we spread out a bit, and we took off our masks to eat, and then we put them back on, and that's how we handled it.
So, Mayor, Matt.
More questions that car dealers. You have car dealers that are out there, and we have counties that are surrounding Los Angeles County because their infection rate is much lower than LA counties. So they opened up their car dealers in that.
Yeah.
Could we open up our car dealers to, if they had some type of personal responsibility or showed some methods in which we could do that?
I can't see why not. I mean, again, the same thing. It really depends on the interaction between the salesman, the people in the office, and the customers. And if people maintain their social distancing, I can't see why not.
Okay, one last question. Gyms. Okay, would the gyms, and can you explain to that? Because I can see how that would transmit. Could they, how do you run or on a treadmill with a mask on? How do you do all that? What would be your recommendation?
So gyms are, obviously we're now getting into something where people are starting to have body fluid. You could have contact issues. But I think what you do in a gym, again, is personal responsibility. You work out on a piece of, let's say you're on a treadmill, you finish on that treadmill, you clean it up, right? And then maybe the company comes behind you and cleans it up as well. We need to take, again, responsibility for, you're going to be working out, you're going to be sweating, but again, you're going to be in your space and you shouldn't have anyone right next to you. You should have your own space. It's like we're keeping the 6-foot rule. I think we can do that in gyms as well. I think there is a way for people to clean up between workouts to make it safe for the next person to come in.
On your list, you had priority list of who's most vulnerable, and
Yep.
Most vulnerable as far as for the age limits and that. Could we do an opening on some of these places based upon age brackets?
Yeah, I think that would be open. I think you want to start with your lowest risk category and then measure to see if there's any detrimental effect from that opening. So a very purposeful, group opening. And again, these people are going to be in all different types of businesses. It's not going to be any one business because we're not doing it by risk, by business like the governor was suggesting today. We're doing it by risk, personal risk based on your health history and your age. And you open that up, and if everything goes well, then and a month goes by, you open up the next group and see how that goes. And you look for a negative effect. And I think that's a way to go. And by the end, you'll have quite a few people back at work. So that I think that's the logical way to try it.
Larry, thank you. I agree with everything that you've said, and very, very well put. Thank you.
So Larry, this is Ken. So may I suggest, I've got a 120-page manual put together on the restaurant operations side of what starting back up would look like. And it's got a lot of solid practices put into place, from cleaning to how often you wash your hands, how often things are sanitized, to monitoring employees. Maybe we put together a boilerplate structure off of that for all businesses. Do you think, with some basic parameters,
Yeah,
as opposed to allowing people just all right, open up, but here's a recommended guideline as first steps. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to keep it, if we operationalize them, it ought to be simple enough that most people can follow it. It's got to be practical, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right. So I think I think the markets and some of the restaurants have shown us the way. Public health, said, hey, you need to have hand sanitizer available for your customers. You need to social distancing. You need to make sure that they had a couple of things where they basically were saying, follow these things. And I'm not saying, I think whatever we should do should make common sense. Everyone's got to wear a mask. Okay, fine. That's good. I mean, and again, we may even augment that. We may say at some point in the future that, hey, a simple mask is good enough. Maybe we could use the National Defense Production Act and crank up the N95s and get N95s for everyone. Maybe that's, I don't know if that would be something to do, but it's something at least to think about. So maybe there's a way that we arm ourselves even better, but certainly a simple mask at this point. And we follow these basic tenets, and there will be variations from business to business. A gym's a little different than a restaurant, and a restaurant's a little different than a dry cleaner's. But there may be some businesses that are really tough to do. Convention centers are going to be pretty tough. Concerts, sporting events, those are going to be really tough ones. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to do them, until this thing's over. But where we don't have mass gatherings, we're trying to avoid the situation of the mass gathering. There's a lot of business that fit in that category.
So that's what I wanted to, Ken, not to step on you. I'm sorry. I wanted to piggyback off of Ken. To me, it would be beneficial if we don't make the same mistakes that kind of was made about we just call some businesses essential and others not. If we could group businesses in that type of way that you just, so you have places like the golf course is a wide open space, but then you have places like churches and restaurants that may have certain distances within themselves that they can distance themselves. And you have some churches that are 20,000 square feet. You have some that are only 4,000 square feet. So we have guidelines that people can abide by, and then it qualifies themselves. They know they have to do this. It's similar to how you have to do for opening a simple restaurant now before all of this. There were simple guidelines that you had to abide by. I would like groupings of businesses in a sense, because I don't want us to go into this one size fit all. We don't want to fall back into what Rex is trying to, Rex, I believe this is what you was trying to accomplish. You didn't want all of California cities to be subjected to whatever LA County said, because each city is different.
Let me be clear what I want. I want our people to be safe, and I want them back to work.
Right.
I want to figure out a way to do that. That's
we
what
want to base it off of somebody else's city.
Let me finish. Mm-hmm. Okay. I need better control of this, Jason. And I appreciate it, Daryl, but I want to be clear what I'm attempting to accomplish. I want us to take care of our people. Our people are in pain right now, and they're being treated like they're in cattle cars and doing what I mean, the governor doesn't know what Lancaster is like. I mean, we're even substantially different than Palmdale, for heaven's sakes. We're sure as heck different than Sacramento. Now, Allison, couldn't we have a thing where we actually give conditional use permits to open up as long as they follow these guidelines, and we let them come in and show us exactly what they're going to do. And then we put it on the internet, and we have people go in, even if we have to have volunteers go and inspect. If they violate it, they get suspended for a while.
Great idea.
I mean, I don't want it punitive for the sake of being punitive. I want it so that we have maximum number of people survive without people shooting themselves because they lost everything. And Allison, we have to figure out, we have to put together a plan now. And if we have to go to the courts to take on the state, we'll take them on if they won't work with us. But this one size fits all is nonsense. And the only thing this one size fits all did was get some of our people killed. That's all it did. They delayed too long. I mean, we could go on and on. So Jason, if we have to buy masks and get a grant someplace to buy them, let's get ready to do that, because there's certain places where we should have the N95 mask. The other thing is we got a lot of people willing to volunteer to help us with medical training. Let me get her name. I've already forgotten her name. Hold on. Tiffany Tanner. She's a PA. I want her. I'm going to appoint her to probably either this commission or make her a part of the deputy mayor and temporarily while this thing's going on. We need people to be working. What?
I was just going to say we need to do that at the next council meeting.
Right. But I want to throw her name out now so you guys can better but we need to work with the what do you call them, assisted living, or what's the new name for rest homes? We need somebody working with them. We need to make it clear that you can go to the emergency room and not get exposed. I mean, you figured out a way to separate those, right?
Yes.
I guess what I'm trying to say, Daryl, is we're on our own. And we have to recognize that. And if we have to fight to be on our own, let's fight. But I'm not going to watch this community shrivel up and die because of somebody who's never been here making decisions that are detrimental to our people. Does everybody agree with that?
I agree with
Not agendized for action on this, so we can't reach consensus.
Oh. Anybody have something to say contrary to that?
No, man, I think that's level thinking. It would be too much nonsense has gone on. And I think there's been some crazy selection. And Larry's already shared with us his insights about how he views things. And God, he's in the front line. So who would know best?
So Larry, are we overburdening you with all of this? I mean, you got to tell us what you need so that we can effectuate these plans.
Look, this is a leader decision. I floated this same concept, to a couple different people. So, I don't know what the relationship is between the state, the county, and the city, but I do think there are concepts worth arguing for, because I think there's consequences to inaction and delays that we're already starting to see. So to answer your question, as far as churches and other gatherings, I think you could space people out physically, but also temporarly. You could have church in sessions, over time. So not everybody has to come in at once. On a Sunday morning, so that's one way to do it. And of course, we're still going to do stuff. Some of it's going to be done by Zoom. We're not going to do everything in person. We have to manage our risk, because if we just go wild, all we have to do is look back at 1918. We can look at the cities that did well and the cities that didn't do well. New York, Paris, London, cities in Berlin, they did poorly. They had a huge second surge. St. Louis did pretty well, and they kept the schools closed. Now, I'm not saying that's the thing to do. What I'm saying is we should learn from history, that we have to be smart about how we open up. We know we have some really high-risk areas, the nursing homes, prisons, anywhere where people living right on top of each other, the cruise ships. So we know where our high risk is, and we know, but other people aren't high risk, and we can manage that and start opening the economy up.
Okay, Daryl, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that. I just wanted, I didn't want us to go down a direction that wasn't okay.
Actually, you were saying, I think we're saying the same thing. We don't want a one size fit all. This is all I was saying, and we want to make sure we curtail what's good for Lancaster and look out for Lancaster. That's all. So I'm in agreement with what you said.
Okay, so Jason, I looked at where you are on the screen, and I realize that really doesn't have anything to do with reality, does it?
I'm here for you.
Okay. I would like the emergency operations people to come up with a plan so that a business can submit a plan to us, and we figure out and
Great idea.
And if we need volunteers that with medical training and all to help us, we have them. They want to help, and so let's get that procedure in place as quickly as possible, so that if you want to open and you meet and you're in a certain business category, you submit the plan, we'll look at it, we'll make recommendations as to what doesn't work or what does work, and then we have a deal. I mean, you violate that deal, you're closed for a while. But I want, in order so that we all have agreement on it, I want it to be their plan that meets our criteria, so we can start opening this up. I mean, and then Allison, I'm not, I've been looking at this issue of just who's in charge, and I don't think it's settled law as to who's in charge of this. Let's try to work, but if they don't want to work with us, we're going to get our people back to work and we're going to keep them safe. But the people also have to understand that the moment those numbers start to go up, the moment Larry Stock says our numbers are rising, we will go back to safe at home. And they've got to sign, and I want that in writing to them. I want them to agree to it. Everybody understands. We all have the same goal, and that's to keep people alive as long as we can. And I need to know from the sheriff's department, are they going to be enforcing who are they enforcing? I don't want a situation like they had in Palmdale where people are flaunting the law and get away with it. And the reason for that is we have children seeing that. We have young people seeing that, and they think, well, they did it. Why can't I do it? Right? I mean, my Facebook post caused some concern. I probably shouldn't have had them IVing the Clorox. Okay, I'll give you that. But it seemed like a good visual at the time. But I want to know exactly what they're prepared to do. And if they are not prepared to enforce the law in our city, let's find whatever we have to do to get that done. If that means, I don't know what it means, but we're okay. I think I've said enough. Anybody disagree with anything I've said? Now's the time.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I have the questions are, we didn't create the 6-foot distancing rule. We didn't create the mask rule. We were one of the first, and we didn't create the stay-at-home law. Allison, I need from you can we do all these things? I agree with what Mayor Paris is saying. We want to do them. We should do them. And I think we're willing to go to court to do it. But what is it going to take to do that?
That's what I need to dig into, particularly whether it will require us to establish our own public health officer to do that. And if we can do a hybrid approach where we take back control of the public health officer role for just these types of items, or whether we have to take it for all of them. So that's my next step.
Good.
Otherwise, Mayor Paris, I agree with what you said. I agree with getting them back to work. Larry, again, thank you very much for everything that you've done for the city. And thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to discuss the details. Jason, can you forward everybody a copy of the document?
Yeah, they already have it.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Larry, does the hospital have all that they need? They have enough masks. They have enough that personal, whatever they call those gowns. They have all those things. Is that correct?
I think we're doing okay, and it's an ongoing thing, Mayor, because again, this is a bit of a marathon for us. So right now we're doing okay. Cases are down. We have to be prepared for any surges. So we're restocking, and but thank you. I believe we're doing okay.
Should we close down the fairgrounds or leave it the way it is for a while?
I think we leave it in place for now, unless there's an imminent need coming up. If there is, we can take it apart. But I think we leave it in place for the fall, unless there's an event coming up. Then I think that's our danger time is going to be fall, winter. And again, we're going to have to be very careful as we open, not have a big surge.
Dr. Stock, sorry to interrupt. You might want to talk about the ability to go to the hospital and the safety of the hospital, as well as the continuing care that's necessary.
There was a front page article in the paper, LA Times paper, 2 days ago that said, "Where have all the heart attacks and strokes gone?" And I was quoted in that article, and it really talked about this phenomenon of people being frightened of coming to the hospital. And I understand it. People were terrified. They'll come to the hospital and catch COVID. And so they'd rather stay at home and suffer. I want to urge the public, your insides are telling you there's something wrong. Pay attention to that and come in. You're not going to catch COVID coming to the hospital. We have safe places for both people with COVID and people without COVID. We have areas that are clean and safe for you to be seen in. And we're there to take care of you. So please don't suffer at home.
The other concern I have is we need an aggressive plan for flu shots. As soon as this year's vaccine hits the market, we need to be pushing that. And so, Jason, put together a team to make that happen. I like the way the hospital does it. It's a personal choice. You can have a flu shot, but if you don't have the thing saying you had one, you got to wear a mask everywhere you go. Now you got to wear the mask anyway. But that is a possibility of a way we could do that. There might be incentives to do it, but I'd like somebody looking at how do we get 80, 90% compliance on flu shots, because we can't be battling both of them come the fall.
So I couldn't agree more, man. If you get a flu shot and and we're lucky enough that it's compliant with the flu, the strain that comes out, if you do get sick, at least we'll know that it's probably not the flu. And whereas if you don't get it, then you're open, you're wide open. So that is going to be very tough come flu season if you haven't gotten vaccinated.
And I'd like somebody to look at the research as to what has other places done to get compliance with the flu shot. What nudge do you have to give people to do it? And then I also want to have that volunteer force ready to go so that we can have them wherever the people are and offer them and get it done. It looks like we're going to be fighting this fight for a while. Let's do it intelligently.
Dr. Stock, is there a way that you can give us information? I was talking to the Vice Mayor today about how the flu shot is still a phenomenon in our community, African-American community. And with us having a lot of the underlying issues that you listed with hypertension and diabetes, very much in our DNA code. And also we're leading, it seems like we're leading in HIV, which is another thing that's not being talked about, and with it attacking the lungs and mucus or whatever. I believe there would be a lot of pastors that would love to start preaching that now from our pulpits, to start pushing, especially the African-American community, please get your flu shots. That is a taboo with us. I'm sure you know that from numbers, that we just do not get flu shots. And I would love some information on how to help for the whole community of the Antelope Valley to really push for what the mayor just said. We don't want just one section, just running from it because of past fears for whatever reasons.
Yeah, I think we need a real public education campaign using media, using social media, and getting out, because it's multiple communities who say, well, I got a flu shot once, but I don't do that anymore. I don't, as if it's like a fashion statement, whether I do it or not. And this has to be, we have to let people know, we're making life and death decisions here, and we're trying to help people. The flu's gonna, we ought to make this a goal of our community to get nearly 100% coverage, unless you have some medical reason you can't get one. And I think it's worth spending some public health dollars on to get that campaign out and go all out this year. I totally agree with both of you.
Maybe we can incentivize it somehow, like we're doing these different programs. maybe we make it okay. You can get this stuff, but you got to get a flu shot.
Gift cards is Marvin's area.
I'm sorry, what?
Gift cards is Marvin area. He's the king of gift cards.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. A gift card.
Yeah.
We got to get real creative. I'm really proud of what you've done for the city, Larry. I mean, our numbers are superb.
Yes. Thank you.
We've saved a lot of lives, and I'm really, really proud of that. But
sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say it's you who actually, in retrospect, you were on this earlier than anyone else I know of. And when you decided to call Dr. Trong and I together with you and Jason and called Dr. Brown. So you saw this coming. And I have to say that's the reason why we're doing these things and why we're doing so well. I mean, we jumped on early at the hospital as well. And Edward Zabagian did a great job and our whole task force at the hospital, but you were ahead of the curve on this. So,
thank you. I just don't care if people laugh at me. Is all. That's why. I mean, I think everybody saw the signs, but social pressure gets in the way a lot. But it's not going to get in the way with us, and I think we've made that statement clear to everybody. Marvin, I wanted to thank you for your incentive program, where if you buy a car, you get a card that has to be spent in the Palmdale or Lancaster. I thought that was a brilliant idea. And you figured out a way to make somebody else pay for it. That's wonderful. Now, can you make somebody pay for the incentivized flu shots?
Absolutely. Let's just do a credit for our LCE. Our electric company. So if they're on the electric company, we can give them an incentive to get the flu shots.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. All right. Larry, anything you need from the city, it's yours. All you have to do is ask.
Right.
I appreciate it. And let's just keep the fight going.
We'll keep chipping away at it. Well, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. Allison is the only one that's got a frown on her face because she's just been told to take on the governor.
That I am ready to go.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to sign off, gentlemen, ladies. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Bye, guys.
All
Thanks,
right.
Larry.
Let me go find where I'm at. All right. Council reports.
We just did CR1, so we're ready for CR2.
Do we have any emailed comments on CR1?
No, we do not.
Well, how can so many people be beating me up on Facebook and then have nothing to say now? I mean, I don't get it. Andrea, I blame you. No. Okay, what about council report CR2?
ABA QMB, we did do several grants, and one of them was to the fairgrounds. We're transitioning the fairgrounds to have video equipment, and that video equipment can be used for things like the livestock auction. So we did give them a grant for that. In the meantime, we are lending it from the fairgrounds to some of the churches, the video equipment. So the churches will be able to have their services and they can put it, live stream it. So we're doing that. The ABTA, lots happening at ABTA. We did park our last diesel bus this last month. So we're running all electric now. We're making money running it with our carbon credits. We're making about 29 cents a mile, while all the other agencies that are out there are being a cost of about $1.57 a mile. So it shows that it's not only good for the economy, it's good for the environment, and it's good all the way around, not only economically, but for the environment. and there's a lot more going on, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Allison, do you have any suggestions as to how we effectuate all this?
I have a few thoughts, but I want to dig into them a little further. I did want to remind you, you said there was something you wanted to add someone to the task force. I think you already announced that, but if you didn't, I wanted to remind you of that because this would be the appropriate.
I've already announced it.
Okay, wanted to make sure.
Yeah, but I want us to be ready to effectuate what we talked about today. Okay, Jason?
I'm on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got staff working on it. It started with Dr. Stock's message, but we're looking at the recovery and how we roll this out when we have that opportunity to do so, whether it's legal or whether it's through Allison's work.
Well, as a great lawyer once told me, until a judge says it, really not a law yet. And I don't think any judge has said it yet. And I think that we're right. I think that we have a duty to safeguard the well-being of this community, and we are not going to just hand it off to somebody else. And yeah, there will be a consequence for it. I mean, we have to be prepared to pay the consequence. But I don't know what else to do. Enough said. I think I've said enough. All right. Anything else? Anybody got anything to talk about? Anything you want to raise? Okay, good. What about any of the staff? Anything we should know about? Now's your chance. All right. City manager, you have any announcements?
Yeah, let me give you kind of a rundown of where we've been since last council meeting. So first of all, the numbers, and I'll pull them up here on my little screen. The Antelope Valley total so far to date is 708 total cases. This is from obviously COVID cases. Lancaster's new cases are today were 5, and there's a total of 280 in Lancaster. We're still trying to figure out, but 82 of those cases are among inmates at the prison. We're trying to identify exactly if that's 82. 82 tested positive at the prison, but whether they're counted in our 82 or the 280, we need to determine. So it could be as low as 198. So the numbers have remained low. So this conversation is obviously appropriate. And as we look forward, to rolling out with these numbers, these continued numbers coming in, we're kind of looking at city staff and getting to the point where how do we get back, right? And there's 3 categories we're working on. One is economic, right? How do we get the economic with the conversation you just had today? Obviously, you've added to that with some of the work we have to do moving forward. But the economic incentives, economic programs, opening up businesses, those types of things, we are working diligently on and identifying how to do that, as well as other funding sources for these businesses, things of that nature, working with them to get them rolling. Obviously, fiscal impacts of the city and how we're going to manage that is the second component, and then operational. So I'm happy to announce Monday started a full operations from the city. As you know, we've been kind of a modified shift, having some people work from home and other people work from the office. We still have that from a protection of safety perspective. Those who can work from home are still working from home, but we have a full complement of our public work staff that are out there serving. COVID doesn't change the number of potholes we need to fill. It doesn't change how many roads we need to pave, sidewalks we need to fix, and sewers we need to clean. So those guys are out there on a daily basis, out there currently 100% of them working hard to serve our community. So operationally, we're getting back to order, as well as looking at programs and identifying what programs we need to roll out eventually when we start having, children that are potentially let out again or available. How do we ramp up our programs, and what kind of programs we're going to look at in the future? We have to start thinking of that as it relates to an operational change. So those 3 categories, economic, fiscal, and operational, we're heavily focused on from a recovery perspective, and we're getting down there. A couple things that we've talked about from a standpoint of from the safety of getting our staff moving back forward is temperature checks daily, social distancing, masks, and hygiene are all going to be key to our staff working safely, and we've kind of repeated that to them over and over and over again, and they'll probably remember that. We'll also working with our lobbyists from a funding perspective. We've received grants from the DOJ, CDBG funds that we're looking at expending to serve our community. We're submitted to FEMA for the reimbursement for our emergency operations. That has been submitted, and it's a significant amount of money. And then grants, having our lobbyists not only at the state level but the federal level go identify grants for us to see where we're missing and what opportunities we have. That's going to be key to, our coming out of this in a valid manner. But not only see what's existing today, but also having that conversation about what should be happening. Telling the story that local government has not been included in any of these CARES programs and CARES Act. Infrastructure has not been a conversation in that. So we're pushing the conversation to say local government needs to be included in that. CARES Act sent $1 billion to LA County for their COVID response. To date, I don't think we've seen $1 of that $1 billion. So it's the conversation of saying, we need our fair share of that CARES. We're not listed in that act. It's cities over 500,000 and counties over 500,000. So we're left out. Many cities are left out. So we're going to go to the county and say, hey, where's our funding to make this happen?
Do we have the county do we have the county on the phone? I mean, do you have the county? No. They're not here tonight?
Oh, I don't know if they got the call-in number or not. We can ask if Donna's out there.
Is Donna Tremere out there? I want to know, I want an answer from the county. Where's our share? Right. You can't leave us out here. You can't leave our people out here like this. I mean, we are part of the county. We'd be happy not to be. We'd be happy if you'd let us go and take all of our own funding. We would take care of ourselves. But if you're going to act as if we are part of you, treat us as part of you. We got people in great agony, and they're not getting their share. Do we have people in the city staff that are helping the citizens apply for the different loans and things of that nature that are available to help them?
Right. We've set up a task force of five or six city staff members that are becoming experts or have become experts on that process. So they are available and at the citizens' disposal, business owners' disposal. If they call in, they will get that kind of service that they're looking for and help through the process. Because we have resources available from the city perspective, but there's also resources available that, we've seen the PPP programs and some of the other CARES Acts that, frankly, small businesses having difficulty getting to and accessing because it's sometimes complicated. So we're hoping to be that resource for those folks.
Okay. I'd like the stats on how many people have sought help, how many people we've helped, how many people we've successfully helped. Okay. I'd like
just to note on our loan program that the council approved probably a month ago. We approved $2 million for that loan program. We've so far subscribed. People have asked for 300,000 of that. So it's one of those things. I don't want to say generosity, but the willingness for the council to step up and help them. And we want to continue to recommend that money is available for businesses to sustain themselves over this time. And the program is still available, and we're looking forward to helping them. So that's available still as well.
Okay, good. Anyway, I want those numbers, but as soon as I don't want anybody not taking care of people because I want numbers. Give them to me when they have time to get them to me. Okay.
Absolutely. And just a side note, I just want to give a shout out to city staff. They have come to work full force, and not only did I think we as a council and management take the right position in protecting their health early on in this process, but also when we saw that the numbers were declining and some of the risks were lower, and asked them to come back, they were 100% in favor of coming back and serving this community. So I can tell you, I'm proud of leading this organization and what our staff has been doing and continues to do, and understanding that that we have a call to duty to continue to work and serve this public, regardless of some of the things that are happening externally. So I want to thank them and give them a shout out.
Okay. Do you need anything from us that would benefit the staff at all?
No, I think you guys are, I think we're right on point. I mean, when I communicate with the staff, I share with them that I think we're ahead of the game, and we have been ahead of the game from day one. And, that's been comforting, and we're ahead of the game because you guys lead. And, that's important for us is, you may not hear that from city managers much, but the reality is the leadership makes the difference and allows city staff to do what we do best. And I don't want to say if you continue to do that, because it's your choice whether you continue to do it or not. But, we all just appreciate the leadership you guys share and allowing, us to be creative and do the cool things, and it motivates us. So thank you.
So I have some other concerns before I let you go.
Ken, do I have a chance to answer that question before again? No.
where are we in regards to getting Wi-Fi into the neighborhoods? We have a disparity of, I mean, that economic disparity, it couldn't be more devastating right now. I mean, the kids with internet and with laptops, and they're adjusting. What about the kids that don't have Wi-Fi? Where are we on getting Wi-Fi into the neighborhood?
So we're in the final throes of contract negotiations with the company who provides the cellular service, the Wi-Fi, and also some camera network. There's one key component that we're hung up on, and that's warranty to protect it, to make sure that Wi-Fi works. There's a couple things in that camera or in that node that's on top of that streetlight that's very important to us. One of them, obviously, as you mentioned, is Wi-Fi. We're working out what those commitments look like to verify that Wi-Fi works for our community, and what are the guarantees and what are the warranties associated with that. So that's the specifics of the contract negotiation, and we hope to finalize that in the next couple of weeks, and then of course install starts. Will it be before the COVID's over? Well, I can't answer that because I don't know when the COVID's over, but it'll definitely, if we get the contract negotiations done, it will be this summer, when by next school year we'll have a fully operational Wi-Fi system.
Okay, good. Anything else? Anybody?
I will note we did put together a hotspot in the beginning of the COVID event, and IT did an amazing job on that. I think that link is on our website of where there is existing free Wi-Fi today. So if those individuals you're referring to, it may not be provided by the city. There are some that are provided by the city on the boulevard and some other areas, but there is free Wi-Fi hotspots, and we put a heat map up on our website to show that. I forgot to mention that. So that is available to the public as well.
Could we get somebody to reach out to Spectrum and see if they're just willing to open it up until this thing's over?
That's where we got the information. There's a lot of it is Spectrum site. And they also have a discount for people at home. They've done a great job of trying to get a discount for internet for those kids that have kids at home.
Maybe we should talk to them about, if a child is on the lunch program, the federal lunch program, that family gets it free Wi-Fi for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Toy, are you on the line? Are you familiar with that in specifics? I don't know if you can jump on or if you're there. Maybe not. Okay, I'll get you that answer.
Well, that's interesting.
And then I just got a text too, Mayor. The small business group that we have has assisted over 200 businesses so far. So and we've established that a couple weeks ago.
Okay, terrific. All right. I think you guys are doing as well as anybody could possibly ask you to do, but work harder.
I'm working on it. We got a lot more to give. We got a lot more days at it. So thank you.
And I'm glad you guys got reelected. I would hate to not be able to continue together. So that worked out. Marvin, once again, you've been a hero in this. Thank you. Good. All right. Do we have any comments from anybody, Andrea?
Yes, I have 3 comments on non-agendized items. One of them came from Rudy Rodriguez. He states that I'm the owner of a small tattoo shop in Lancaster, California. My shop's been closed for nearly 2 months due to coronavirus. My shop's lease will be up at the end of this month. My question is, what are my options moving forward? Do I have any legal rights to stay an extra 2 months since I had to close down prior to fulfilling my lease term? I've applied to all the loan programs that were available for small businesses as soon as they came available, yet I haven't received any financial help or any status about them. Thank you. The next comment came from Mike Thacker.
Wait a minute. Is that something the EOC can help with?
Yeah, I think
he said a tattoo shop. Is that what he said?
Yes, tattoo shop.
I mean, I really think that's probably down the road simply because of the nature of it, So can the EOC help him get some funding?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at our loan program, and if it's the wish of the council to proceed with somebody like that, we can reach out to that person. And then also not only help them with outside assistance, but assistance we have, and share with them some of the legal rights that they may have from a eviction perspective. There are some protections of eviction Now, sounds like there's an intricacy in his email as relates to the leases expiring. I don't know how that works, but we can help him through that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Andrea.
Okay. The next one is from Mike Thacker. And he states, my name is Mike Thacker and I'm a resident of Lancaster. I would like to know what the city's plan is to fix the thousands of potholes that are popping up all over the city. Avenue K and L seem to be crumbling in front of our eyes. Are you aware of the problem and what kind of plan do you have in place to start fixing our streets that make some of the third world streets I've seen look amazing? I know you care, but seeing chunks of asphalt everywhere makes me wonder if you are aware. I'm submitting this electronically because apparently there's no way for us to address the council as we would with 2 or 3 minute non-agenda portion on the normal council meeting. Thank you.
So, Jason, you want to take that on?
Yeah. So if you look at the agenda, I think there's a couple stories there. I think the answer is first, yeah, we absolutely know, and it's one of the highest priority you guys have set for us. If you look at the council agenda, there are a number of projects that we're approving because we've completed the work. And I think that needs to be said, is that we have continued the construction effort through this process, and our construction team and our capital program has been focused very heavily on not only getting our roads fixed, but seeing the capital expenditures as part of the recovery. We haven't slowed down whatsoever as it relates to construction. We've kept it going, not only for keeping jobs available, but keeping our roads going. We have, frankly, had limited staff from a pothole perspective. And, we're back to full staff, as I mentioned earlier, which is going to be focused on filling those potholes. And of course, we're coming off a rainy season. As you guys know, from a rainy season, those potholes pop up. But we chase them as effectively as we can. But the key there is the reconstruction of our roads. And we are doing a significant amount of work through your leadership. We've issued, $50 million worth of bonds to get additional funding available and advance some of that funding. We're heavily focused on getting grants and other projects moving forward. We've got some of the interchange money that the council has aggressively sought that allows us to pave on 1 mile on each side of the intersections. So we absolutely are aware. We're absolutely committed to move this stuff through. And you'll see the agenda, how many things have been approved and are getting to be built. So I agree that it needs work, and we're working as hard as we can to do that.
Okay.
And we had one last comment from Danita Wynn, who wanted to congratulate Mayor Parrish, Mr. Ken Mann, and Darrell Doris on their elections to the City of Lancaster City Council. And that's all the comments I have received.
Thank you, Danita.
Thank you.
Darrell, you got to unmute if you want to talk.
Thank you.
I'd like to share with everybody that I got a text message from Councilman Doris telling me to quit touching my face. And the reason I bring that up is because that's really what we have to do for each other. We have to make it part of our culture that whenever somebody touches their face, feel free to tell them to stop. That's the only way we're going to quit doing it. We got to have constant reminders to change that behavior. So thank you, Councilman Doris, for pointing that out to me. You could have just said it on a live mic. I would have been totally okay with it.
No.
So to all of you out there, we're going to get through this. We're still a long ways from it being over, but so far, everybody's working together, and we're working better than I see elsewhere. And I really want to thank the young people of this community. I drive around on the weekend seeing just what kind of compliance we have. It's fabulous. The people are paying attention. There are very few people who don't have a mask on and not doing their jobs. And, it's perfectly okay to glare at somebody who's not wearing a mask. Yeah. I mean, that actually helps. It actually works. So, Jason, we had a discussion earlier about one of the larger stores who was not enforcing the mask thing. Have we dealt with that?
Yes, code enforcement has been notified, and they're working on it as we speak.
Okay. And have they explained that they don't have to be open at all?
Yeah, there's absolutely.
Okay, good. This is not a opportunity for people to be attention seeking. Now, I had a lot of criticism about saying that we're going to identify, arrest, and prosecute, but we will. And the paper was upset that how could a mayor say that if you end up going to jail, you could die from it? I'm saying it. That is how it is. People in prison their lives are in danger, and we know that. People in jail, because of the crowded conditions, it is almost impossible to protect those people. We know that. And I'm not going to act like it's a secret or not say it. The only way we deal with this crisis is to recognize everything about it that could cause people to die and then make a decision. Now, some of the people in jail, the decision is, I'm sorry about that. But the decision is not going to be is to act like it's not a serious concern, because the jail, people working in the jail, they live with it every single day, and they're doing everything they can to. I mean, those are the real heroes, is the people going to the jail every day to work. So people out there that are thinking that it's not a big deal to flaunt these laws, it is a big deal. I mean, it is. So I think I just wanted to clarify it. And I think that's why our crime rate is so far down too. Is I think the criminals recognize this is real stuff, and people are behaving. All right. Anything else I can do for anybody? Marvin?
Thank you.
Ken, you good?
I'm good, thanks. I think we're moving in the right direction, Mayor. Thank you.
Daryl? You good?
I'm great. I love the direction we're going in. I like us moving forward slowly but surely and opening up our economy. I think it's a great action that we're taking, and I appreciate your leadership.
What happened to Raj? Raj, are you still here? Well, should we excuse Raj's absence?
Raj did call and ask that he be excused because he's running his restaurant at 6:30.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 12th at 20:20, 5 p.m. May 12th, 2020 at 5 p.m. I'm already home, so I don't have to end it the usual way. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. See ya.
Good night, everyone.